Although I will say that Gustav was quite hot. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bodhi and welcome to my reading nook. So today's video is going to be kind of the start of a new series over the next 4 weeks, which is reviewing as well as comparing a series of unfortunate events on Netflix, the new series that just came out, against the books, because I'm still currently rereading the books. Now, the season 1 of a series of unfortunate events focuses on the first 4 books. Today I'm talking about episode 1 and 2, which focuses on book number 1, The Bad Beginning. Now, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers, I suggest clicking away now. So it follows the story of Violet, Klaus and Sunny Baudelaire. Now, they are on a beach where a banker, Mr. Poe, walks up to them and says, you know, I'm afraid I have some bad news. Your parents have perished in a terrible fire that has engulfed your mansion where you live, and you are now orphans. And it is his job to put them in contact and in the care of their closest living relative, who happens to be Count Olaf. Now, Count Olaf is an evil, horrible man who is money hungry and wants to exploit the children and wants to be their guardian to get his hands on the enormous Baudelaire fortune left behind. Now, the Baudelaire fortune is in care of the bank, and as an extension, Mr. Poe, and the fortune cannot be touched until Violet becomes of age, when she's 18, and she's currently 14. Count Olaf doesn't know this, so he plots to get the fortune in whatever way he can. Now, The Bad Beginning follows how the main ploy is he abuses the children in multiple ways, such as, you know, he physically strikes Klaus, he forces them to do arduous chores around the house, such as cutting firewood, cleaning a grimy, disgusting house, so on and so forth, cook dinner and everything like that. And then he, you know, once the children try to dob him in to Mr. Poe, and Mr. Poe confronts Count Olaf over the phone, he decides to, because he is an actor, incorporate the children into a play called The Marvelous Marriage. And then, long story short, he intends to marry Violet, and through doing so, he manages to get his hands on the fortune, or at least so he hopes. And then the story ends, he escapes, and, you know, they go on to their next relative, which is what book number 2 is on, which will be next Monday's video. So, some of the points on the series. Now, first off, I'll go through the cast. Neil Patrick Harris plays Count Olaf. Melina Weissman plays Violet Baudelaire. Louis Hines as Klaus Baudelaire. Presley Smith as Sunny Baudelaire. Joan Cusack as Justice Strauss. Patrick Warburton as Lemony Snicket. And Kenneth Todd Freeman as Mr. Poe. They're the main characters and also some of the characters that will occur throughout the series. Okay, so in episode 1, what I really enjoyed was the role of Lemony Snicket. The narrator in the book is Lemony Snicket, and I really enjoyed the similarities there, where, you know, the book starts out with Lemony Snicket, or the narrator, saying, you know, if you're interested in stories with a happy ending, you would be better off reading some other book. In this book, not only is there no happy ending, there's no happy beginning, and very few happy things in the middle. And in the series, he starts off by saying, you know, a similar thing where, you know, this story is depressing. And then another quality that I really enjoyed was throughout Lemony Snicket's writing style, he talks about, he gives a lot of definitions. So, for example, rickety is a word here that means blah blah blah. And that's also what he does as Lemony Snicket narrates the series. Now, one thing that I didn't like was Mr. Poe. He was very comical. He was very ridiculous in a comical sense, while in the book he's ridiculous, but in an absurd sense, and I didn't like the comedy. I thought it took a lot away from his character. Things like, you know, when he tells the children that their parents have died, they say, "How do you do?" And he says, "Yes, it's a marvellous day. Oh, I have some bad news. Your parents just died." Like, he's very up and cheery, and it just doesn't suit him. And it doesn't suit the character that, that I'm expecting it to be once reading the book, where he's more serious, he's more absurd because he thinks he's an adult that knows everything, but he's not haha funny. One thing that I did like was we got to see the children go to Mr. Poe's family's house. I didn't really like the family or how they were portrayed, but I at least enjoyed that we got to see them. The other thing that I want to make a note of is that Mr. Poe, Mrs. Poe and his family are all people of colour. I really liked that. It wasn't what I expected because I have seen the movie version, which I will do a contrast/comparison with the book later on in another day. But I'm focusing on the series at the moment. But, he was white in that. In this one, he's a person of colour, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was something unexpected because it's not ever specified in the book. Now, I liked Count Olaf's depiction through Neil Patrick Harris. I thought it was amazing. I thought that, he was really vindictive and he was really dark and he had some really witty one-liner type, lines, and, he was very accurate to how he is in the book. Justice Strauss, who is Count Olaf's neighbour, to begin with, I didn't like her, but she was redeemed by the end of the story. And the reason I didn't like her is along the same lines why I didn't like Mr. Poe, and that is because that's because they were both very comical. And in the book, Justice Strauss, she's a judge, she's a legal representative, and, she's meant to be this serious but endearing maternal figure that she is in the book, and she's rather comical and kind of portrayed as just a lonely old woman whose dream is to be an actor, and which is kind of lines up with the book where her dream is to be an actor. But this lonely old woman who, she's always in her judge outfit, and it's almost like she's very one-dimensional. And that's rectified later on, for example, when the kids are crying in their bed after Count Olaf has struck Klaus across the face. And then it cuts to a scene where Justice Strauss is in her private library reading a book about adoption laws, and I thought that was very endearing. And then at the end of the scene, or at the end of the, episode, or episode 2, it was again redeemed through how she, interacted with the children, especially when she realised that she wasn't going to be able to adopt them. I really enjoyed Violet, Klaus and Sunny. I thought they were all accurate from their appearance to their characteristics to their personality. The one thing I didn't like was how Sunny was biting things in this really animated, over-the-top manner, and she's gnawing something off screen and things are flying everywhere. I thought that was a bit, ridiculous. And then the other thing that I made a note of was, in episode 1, there's an invention that Violet, in the book, she's thinking of on the beach where she's skimming a rock across the water, and she's thinking of an invention of how to get that back. But in the series, this invention is suddenly there, and it's like borderline ridiculous. And as well as, in the book, in episode 2, when she saves her sister in Count Olaf's plot, she creates a grappling hook basically out of a dirty umbrella, or a broken umbrella, and some bad sheets, and, this really dangerous, unsafe practice for a 14-year-old or for anyone, but especially for a child. And then, in the series, she creates this grappling hook out of a very firm, hook, and then it's some really weird pulley invention where she flicks a switch kind of thing and just lifts her up, and I'm like, oh, how convenient is that? So I thought that was a bit of a letdown. But other than that, I find them to be very consistent in how they're portrayed. I really like the theatre troupe, Count Olaf's theatre troupe, aka all his henchmen. And it has all the main theatre troupes that are mentioned in the book, which I have bookmarked here, and they include, the bald man with a very long nose dressed in a long black robe, the two women who had bright white powder all over their faces, which I thought was interesting in the series that they made them twins. I thought that was a really good kind of addition. A man with very long and skinny arms, at the end of which were two hooks instead of hands. The hooks looked a bit... I didn't really like how the hooks looked, but whatever. And also there was a person who was extremely fat and who looked neither a man or a woman. I thought they were a really funny character. I really enjoyed them appearing. Okay, so that was the main things for episode 1. In episode 2, I enjoyed the recap at the start of the episode that kind of went over everything that happened in the previous episode. I thought it was interesting how they decided to give a flashback to Mr. Poe and Count Olaf meeting, and how Count Olaf came to receive the children. Although I'm not entirely sure that it's true to the book, I still thought it was interesting. And then the one thing I didn't understand about episode 2 was I had no idea why the secretary Jacqueline was there, let alone Gustav, who isn't supposed to turn up until book number 2 or episode number 3, which is the reptile room. No idea why he's there. They're both there with these spy glasses, which is a hint to future events in the series, so I wonder how that's going to play out with regards to it happening through the series on screen rather than in the book there. Although I will say that Gustav was quite hot. And then that was all, like, you know, the major performance of, you know, The Marvelous Marriage. I thought that was quite accurate. Everything went well, everything like that. So yeah, no big issues with it. Overall thoughts that I have are, I was really pleased with Count Olaf, and I was really pleased with Violet, Klaus and Sunny. I didn't enjoy Mr. Poe, and I'm kind of hoping that he develops over the series and becomes less of a comical act. Justice Strauss needed work, but she was redeemed by the end. I enjoyed the diversity in the series, so Mr. and Mrs. Poe and the children were people of colour, and the hook-handed man is an actor who's from Swaziland. I really enjoyed that it was not all these white people. And then the one key core issue with it, and I'm interested to see how it plays out, but I'm hoping they don't fuck it all up, is that in the series, in the book series, the Baudelaire parents die in the house fire, and it's kind of insinuated that it was an arson attack. While in the series, they have been kidnapped and are held in some jail cell, and I have no idea why they're trying to do that. I don't see the point of it yet. Having read all the series, I still don't see the point of it, but I'm interested to see how it plays out and whether they actually do a good job with it or whether it goes to shit, more or less. Anyway, that's all I have for you for episode 1 and 2 of a series of unfortunate events on Netflix, as well as book number 1, The Bad Beginning. Next Monday I will be talking about book number 2, The Reptile Room, and comparing that to episodes 3 and 4, which also focus on the Reptile Room. So, other than that, happy reading.